She rose to power, although she started as a prostitute with an obscure past. Empress Theodora was the most powerful woman in the world at some point, and she achieved it only due to her ability and charisma, and maybe a little through sex, but mostly through ability and charisma. Today, Theodora is the saint of the Eastern Orthodox Christianity, but times weren't always happy. Some say there is always a woman behind every successful man, and Theodora was the wife behind the most successful man in the Byzantine Empire's history. Stay till the end of this video and discover why she had 3 completely opposite biographies and exactly how scandalous she was. Spoiler alert, she was the mastermind of restoring order during the sports riots. Did I say restoring order? I meant killing everyone on sight. Not many people got killed, maybe some 30,000. Eastern Roman Empire, also known as Byzantium, was founded in 375 AD when Roman Emperor Theodosius divided the Roman Empire because he thought it would be easier to defend against the barbarians that way. Who were the barbarians? Ancestors of almost every European today. So our great-grandparents decided to conquer Roman Empire and take the money, staff, and women. Especially women. Grandpa Oda Asa put an end to the Western Roman Empire in 476 AD, but the eastern part wanted to stay alive and decided to fight for it. And the Byzantine Empire achieved to dominate a big part of European history throughout most of the Middle Ages, up until the fall of Constantinople in 1453. But in the late 5th and early 6th century, the Byzantine Empire wasn't in a good state. Tightened by barbarian states, the Eastern Roman Empire struggled to survive. Step by step, the empire managed to adapt to the new circumstances, and in 518, Justin I became the emperor. During his reign, his nephew, Justinian I, gathered a lot of power and influence, and in 527, rose to the throne. He was the last one to speak Latin as his native language, and the first one to marry a retired prostitute. At least he didn't marry a cousin. As the emperor, Justinian became known as the most powerful ruler in the history of the Byzantine Empire. He conquered Dalmatia, northern Africa, and southern Italy, with Rome included, southern Spain, and Mars. Okay, maybe one of those isn't true. I'm not sure which one. Also, he built the largest church, Hagia Sophia, and introduced new laws. But most importantly, he married a former actress and a woman who became famous by presenting her body to others. No, not Kim Kardashian. We don't know much about Theodora's early life, and the sources we have are not exactly reliable. Either they love her or they hate her. And about her early life, there are only writings that don't show her in a great light. Historian Prokopius, in his Secret History, said Theodora was born into a poor family and that her father, who was a bear keeper, died early. Okay, stop for a second. How cool is that to be a bear keeper? And her mother was an actress who taught her daughters to do the same. But acting back then meant as few clothes as possible and some private sessions with, let's call them, special fans. So Theodora entered the family business. After a few years of hard work, she retired, aged 16, and moved to Egypt, and later Libya, where she climbed the social ladder and returned as a retired and reformed actress. When I say she climbed the social ladder, I mean she was a concubine of any influential person. Back in Constantinople in 522, she met Prince Justinian, who was 20 years her senior, but that fact didn't mind their love. Justinian even changed the law that forbade the heir to marry a former reality show star in 525. Actress. In 527, Justinian ascended to the throne and Theodora became Augusta, the empress, or in Justinian's words, partner in my deliberations. It seems that both of them, being law-borns, had some animosity towards the nobles, and because of that, nobles had to pay much higher taxes than before, even though they had different religious views that didn't bother them. I must remind you that if you had different religious views from others, that means you were going to lose a limb, nose, ear, or head. Or all of the above. I suppose that was real love. And when Justinian caught the plague, guess who ruled the Byzantine Empire? Although there are not many sources about her influence on politics, some signs appear everywhere, since Theodora maintained relations with foreign rulers as their equal, and she appeared equal to her husband in every event and also on mosaics. She was also a role model for Margaret Thatcher's war against football hooligans. In 532, the Nika riots destroyed half of Constantinople, and even Hagia Sophia burned. The story was simple. Justinian raised taxes, lost a war against the Persians, and some former nobles entered the Greens and the Blues party. Besides sports and social, there were some religious differences between the groups, similar to Celtic and Glasgow Rangers in today's Scotland. Those parties were fans of some chariot racers at the Hippodrome, conveniently placed next to the palace. Soon, both parties decided to start riots and held the royal family under siege for a week. Justinian wanted to flee on a boat, but Theodora showed enormous courage and talked him into fighting. After some negotiations, the Blue Band left the Hippodrome, and the Green Party members were massacred by the army. You know, some say that the death penalty would make NFL games much more interesting. Maybe they stole that idea from Theodora. After more than 20 years on the throne, Theodora passed away in 548 from unknown natural causes. Her death left a deep impact on Emperor Justinian, who spent his last 17 years alone without marrying again. Theodora was his love, soulmate, and most trusted advisor. Once again, we can see Theodora's power in the fact that little significant legislation dates from her death up until Justinian's passing in 565. Even though they didn't have children together, her daughter was well taken care of and lived a wealthy life. And all three of her grandsons became respected politicians in the Byzantine Empire. But why was Theodora so controversial? Was she that scandalous, or was she just a victim of a vengeful writer? Prokopius was a court historian for Justinian. He wrote 8 books about Justinian's reign, but the 9th he didn't publish. Above-mentioned secret history presented the royal couple in an awful light, and Justinian as incompetent, cruel, and even as a demon. I don't know how Prokopius did it, but Theodora was described even worse. He wrote about her as a deeply perverse woman with some awful habits, especially sexual. He called her Theodora from the brothel, and described how she allowed geese to peck grain from her lower torso. Do I need to say that the prostitute story comes from this book? The writer's motivation for writing this book is still unknown, but some historians think he had something personal against Justinian and Theodora, and others think it was an insurance ticket in the event of a possible uprising. Or maybe he wrote about his fantasies about Theodora. I mean, even writers have needs. One time no, it doesn't matter. Let's get back to the story. Even though many think the fight for women's rights started in the modern era, that couldn't be far from the truth. And the perfect example is Empress Theodora. She may even be called the mother of women's rights. She changed some ridiculous laws, and after that, rape became punishable by death, no matter in what social category the villain was. Besides that, she outlawed sex slavery and forced prostitution, and women could finally speak during the divorce trials and even possess property. And check this out, it became forbidden to kill your wife. She forbade an honorable man to kill his own wife? In what kind of world do we live? Of course, I'm being ironic, and I can't believe someone even had to outlaw these stupid customs. I mean, common sense, people. We should all respect Theodora and how she started from the bottom, and on her bottom, and rose to become the person who decides about anyone's life and death. In a way, she cleared the path for many other women to fight to reach the place of power. Maybe that was why Prokopius wanted to discredit her in his secret history. Yes, they were the medieval version of the story Pretty Woman, but instead of Richard Gere and Julia Roberts in a limousine, we have Theodora and Justinian conquering the world. Not bad at all. For a woman who caused all women to become morally depraved by providing them legal protection. Yep, once again, Prokopius.